We're going to talk about, we're going to talk a little bit about why we do the assessments. We kind of hinted on it already. We're going to talk about what assessments we use. How do you give the assessment? How do you score and interpret the assessment? And how do you make it fun? Um, so first, of course, why do we give assessments? Like I said, we talked a little bit about it already, especially this first part, that it helps show funders that our program is working. And many of our funders require us to provide that kind of data. So like we said, that accountability piece, right? One of the things that we want to make sure is that we are doing the best that we can with the scholars that we have in our sites. And one of the ways to do that is help us track their progress. So is what we're doing actually working? Are we helping them in the way that we want to, in a way that aligns with like our mission and our values? And then the second reason is it also helps you guys as tutors gauge where your scholar is currently, and it makes it easier for you to have a starting point. So we heard a lot in the past like 2-3 years that a lot of our tutors felt like they didn't know where to start with their scholars. They weren't sure where to begin with, what book level, kind of what to do and where to go. And so kind of putting this in your hands gives you kind of that immediate feedback. Okay, I can tell just by listening to my scholar that they're maybe not reading at the current level, like they're maybe not reading at their grade level. I should start them with some smaller books. Any questions on why we give the assessments?
Mhm.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So what do we use? We use two different types of assessments. The most common one that you guys will see is our first through fifth graders, and that is the Dibbles 8th edition. So it is a 1 minute fluency and comprehension passage. It really is one of the most utilized forms of assessments out there. The schools use it partially because it is so much like it's so research backed. We just use the passage portion. So each one of these has a ton of different other things that come with it. But for the sake of our scholars and your time, and really for the data that we need, we really only need the 1 minute passage. The other one that we use is called CORE. And this is actually a phonics assessment, a larger phonics assessment. And we only use it for our kindergartners, and it is specifically the alphabet recognition section. So for kindergarten, especially kind of even jumping into first grade, they're really still learning how to read. And so we really just want to make sure that they understand the basics. So do they know their alphabet? Do they know the sounds of the alphabet? Can they distinguish their vowels, the long versus their short? Um, and we actually worked with a student, a grad student out of, I want to say, Virginia, University of Virginia. It's
Yep.
been a minute.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, to kind of develop what this looks like and make sure that it works best for the data that we need and is the easiest to implement for you all. And like I said, both of these are heavily researched, so we know that they are good assessments and they're going to tell us what we need. And we're going to dive a lot more into like the specifics of each one and how to do that in a second. But any questions on what we're using?
No,
Okay.
I'm good.
Trucking along. I like it. All right. So this is going to be the longest portion that we're going to talk about today. And it's how do you give each assessment? So we're going to jump into breaking down the assessment into its pieces. What are the different sections? How you as a tutor would give it. And then we're actually going to have some practice parts where you kind of get to see it take place, or you get to listen to it. And then you're actually going to score some of it yourself. I apologize in advance. There's a little bit of math that you have to do. It's not hard math, though. I promise. Don't panic. Nobody panic about the math. All right. So we're going to start with core. This one you will probably see the least. Like I said, we only use it on our kindergartners and in cases where there's a scholar who, maybe you're like, okay, they're not reading this at all. Let's start at the beginning. Do they even know their alphabet? So occasionally you might have like a first or a second grader take the core. But 90% of the time it is going to be our youngest. our youngest scholars, our kindergartners. This is all about alphabet recognition. So you will have a sheet of paper and we're going to look at it in a second, but all they have to do is just say the letters as they kind of appear. It breaks it up into five, six, five groups of sections. And the first one is uppercase letter recognition. So can they look at all the uppercase letters and tell you what they are? The next is lowercase. So can they see lowercase and distinguish, okay, this is an A in uppercase, but this is also what the A looks like in the lowercase. Do they know the sounds? So do they know that A is ah or B is b, right? And then the last part is the vowels, which is two parts to it. So can they distinguish A versus ah or E versus eh, right? So those long and short vowels that we use often. There is no time limit on this one, so it kind of just takes as long as the scholar takes. Most of our scholars, if they know the alphabet, you can tell right away. They are going to zip through it. And even in some cases, they will give you the name of the letter and the sound it makes at the same time. That is totally fine. But it's self-paced for them, but it really doesn't take any more than 1 to 2 minutes. If a scholar is really struggling to get through the first parts, so if you can tell like off the bat that they do not know their letters, you can kind of make the decision on your own. Okay, they need to start at the very basics, and you can discontinue the assessment. All you would do is just write their scores that they did get, and then discontinued on the assessment, and that just lets us know that they weren't there yet, and that's totally okay. Especially for a kindergartner who is just entering our program for the first time. It is the fall. They probably are just experiencing school for the first time for some of them. That is okay. Another thing is sometimes they will combine, like I said, a scholar will look at it and be like, A, ah, like they know that A is ah and B is b. That's great. Then you don't have to give the sound assessment again. You can just kind of count it for both, if that makes sense. You can just make a note like, okay, they know that what the sounds make and they got them all. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So each assessment has two sets of materials. They have what scholars look at, which are student materials, and then they have your materials as a tutor, what you get. So this is what the core looks like. Pre-K to K, most of our preschoolers probably do not know their full alphabet yet. They may be able to give you a few letters, but our kindergartners are most of the ones taking this. So the one behind the red is their student materials. This is what the scholar will read from. And your team leaders have both of these documents. So they will, when they pass assessments or when you're giving assessments, you will get both of them. And then the one in front of the green is what you have to track as they're kind of saying it. This sheet you can mark up to your heart's content. You can write all over it, whatever you need to get through it. So you can cross out ones they got wrong. You can circle the ones they got right. The most important thing is as long as you put, do I have a little, can I draw on this? Can y'all see this if I draw on it? Let me see. I'm going to try to make it colorful or highlight it. Can y'all see the highlight?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this little section in the corner, it says out of 26. So that is where you would put their raw score. So if they got 3 of these wrong, you would put 23 out of 26 right there. And that'll help you when you're scoring it at the end. The vowel sounds, like I said, have 2 scores. So for here, this section down here, I know it's a little hard to see. And I cannot use this apparently. But right here has 2 scores. So they get a score if they get the long vowel and a score if they get the short vowel. So if you point to the A and they're like, the two sounds it makes are A and ah, then they get a point for each. If they only say one of them, then they would only get the point for either the long or the short, depending on which one that they said. And like I said, this one does not have a time limit. It is kind of self-paced. You can kind of tell within the first, even really the first section or second section, if the scholar is going to be able to kind of complete it. Becomes very apparent at the beginning if you can recognize, okay, they don't know their alphabet yet. Some schools have been teaching the sounds of the letters before the names. So sometimes if they don't get the names, they may know what it sounds like. So if you have a kid who's really struggling and they're like, instead of D, they're saying B or they're saying Z, it might help to ask them, okay, well, what is that? What does it sound like? That may give you an indentation on maybe they're just not at the name part of it yet. Any questions so far?
No.
The scholars for the student materials, they can point. For some, it helps to have an extra piece of paper because they can see a lot of letters and they might get a little bit overstimulated and confused on where they're supposed to be. So if they want to track with their fingers, or if you feel like it's better to go line by line with a piece of paper, that also works. Like I said, there's no time limit. So it really is at your discretion as a tutor how to kind of help your scholar through it. You can't give them the answers. You can't correct them and mark it wrong, but you can kind of use a paper to help them through it or remind them like, hey, you can point, or you as a tutor can point. I've had many times where I've used my pencil. I'm like, okay, what does this one say? What is this one? Whatever tools that you want to use. All right. So we're gonna do an example. What we're gonna do is I am going to give the assessment, and I'm actually gonna pull Whitney in. She didn't know she was doing this, but she's gonna take the assessment as a student. And I'm gonna give you an example. I'm gonna walk through exactly what it is that you would say to your scholar, and how you would mark it on your end. So I've shown you the student materials, but I'm going to treat this kind of like the tutor materials because I'm going to mark it off as we go. Okay. Winnie, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Like I said, she didn't know she was doing this. All right. So hi, Whitney. Are you ready to show me your reading skills? We're gonna see if you know your alphabet today.
Okay. I know my
Okay.
alphabet.
You know your alphabet? All right.
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna start with the first part, the first box up here, and I just want you to tell me what letters these are, okay? And you can point, I can track for you if you want. But I just want you to tell me what they say, all right?
Okay.
All right, whenever you're ready, you can start.
D A N S. I don't remember that one.
That's okay. That's an X. Good job, though.
Okay. Z J L
Mhm.
H T V E C O M R D
Okay.
W K U G B F O V I.
Good job. You did it. Was that so hard? You did awesome. And that is literally all you have to do. So the first part A is just uppercase. Part B is lowercase. And then part C is sounds. So I am going to have Whitney do it one more time. We're going to do the sounds just to show you what that looks like. And then we'll score it and we'll walk through how to interpret it. But all right. So you did awesome for our first two. You showed me that you really know your letters. But do you know what sounds they make?
Yes.
All right. Can you show me what sounds they make?
Okay. B, L, N, S, X, Z, J, T, V, D, S, M, R, K, W, J, B, F, K, V.
Good job. And quick question for you. This letter right here, do you know what other sound it could make? You said Joe. What's the other sound it can make?
G.
Yeah, good job. And that's it.
Yay.
Yay. So it's very, very simple. It really is just having them recognize what letters there are and letting you know, okay, do we need to go over flashcards, of what the letters are before we start? It gives you a chance to kind of tailor, your time with your scholar to meet their needs. And then you would just take however many they got wrong. So she got 4 wrong in the first one. So she got a 22 out of 26. And you would have a sheet to write that over here. We didn't do this one. And then she got 2 wrong here. So she got, I think this one's out of 23. But so she got, oh no, the math, 21 out of 23. We'll check if that's right later. But that's it. And then for the bottom part, you would just ask them, okay, can you tell me the 2 sounds that this letter makes? And they would be like E or A. Or some of them will just be like A. And you'd be like, do you know the other one? And they'd be like, that's okay. That means they just know the short sound. So the short sound is the A, E, A, O, U. Those are your shorts. And then your longs, of course, are the E, I, A, O, U. Does that make sense? We're feeling comfortable with core so far?
Sounds good.
All right.
Melissa, I do want to,
Go for it.
oh, um, so just to clarify though, the G that you had me give the 2 different sounds for, do I get a point for each sound?
Yes, yes. So the scholar does get a point for each sound. I believe G and C are the 2 letters that have 2 possible options. So they would get a point for each sound. You can ask them to double check the C. I believe it's K and I never say the sound right with my C's. But if they get 2, then they get 2 extra points for that. All right. We are tracking. Okay. So how to score it. This is the part that involves a little bit of math. I will say that the core scoring involves a little bit more math than the Dibbles one. And that's just the nature of the assessment. So we have our scores now. How do we put it on the sheet? So this sheet that you're looking at right here is the back of your tutor materials. And so the biggest part that you guys are going to look at is this first section up here. This right here. So this is where you're going to put the raw scores in. And then it has an equal sign that we're going to walk through in a second. So you would write the 24 out of 26. If she did 25 out of 26, then 22, and it's 20. It is 23. And so forth.
Okay.
Yep.
So the math that you have to look at is each section not only has a raw score, but they get a percentage. And all that percentage is it's kind of like grading. You take their actual score and you divide it by the number of like total possible points. So you would do, for Whitney's example, we would have 24 divided by 26, and that would give her percentage. That's the easy part. To get the next score, and vowels has two parts to it. So the long vowels get their own percentage, the short vowels get their own percentage. And that percentage tells you this section right here. They've broken their scoring down into mastery, progressing, and novice. And what that means is, do they really know the skills? Are they learning the skills, which is progressing? Or are they just starting to learn the skills? So they're really new to the skills. They need a lot more work. So the two formulas you have to look at are, of course, that first one up here, the total correct divided by the number of letters. That gives you their first percentage. And then this part right here, this longer math that I'm so sorry for, is where you have to average out their percentages. And that average is actually what's going to decide their level for this section right here. So whatever it is that the average is, so you're going to add up all the percentages and divide them by 5, which I think I'm going to edit to put on this so that you guys have that on your paper. But that's going to give you the percentage that you're going to check off for if their alphabet skills if they're mastered their alphabet skills, if they're still progressing in their alphabet skills, or if they're really just learning in their alphabet skills. So that average percentage is what their mastery level is going to be. Does that make sense? Any questions? Like I said, we're in the process of updating our assessments, so I'm going to put a section in here that lets you have this formula on the sheet already. Most of you are not going to do core. Kindergarten is one of our more rare ages. Most of you are going to work with dibbles, which is what we're going to go into even more next. But in case you do work with a kindergarten, this is the assessment you would use.
Melissa, where do
Yes.
they? I can't read what's at the top, or I'm pointing like you can see what I'm pointing at. Where do we put the total, the average percentage? Is there a place on the sheet? Because I'm not seeing anything.
I'm going to add one, but what you would do for right now, if like this is the sheet I was giving you, you would just like highlight or click like what area.
Okay.
So this section right here tells you, okay, if they score between 0 and 50% in their average, then they're considered novice. If they are 50% to 79, then they're considered progressing. And then if they get anything 80% or above, then that's considered mastery. They know their alphabet. They may have missed a few things here and there, but you are pretty confident that they are where they should be.
So on the right where it says scholar needs assistance with,
yeah. So this, go ahead.
Just if it's progressing or novice, we check it.
Yeah, so this section really is to help you all tailor your experiences with your scholar a little bit deeper. So if you notice that your scholar doesn't really know the lowercase stuff, then you can just highlight areas that you felt that they were struggling in. Like if their vowel sounds, they have their short vowels down, but they do not know their long vowels, then you can highlight on there the vowel sounds. And these sheets, they stay with you guys the entire session. So they get a new one at the beginning of every session, but this is for you. This is for you to look at, for you to reference as you're working with your scholar. I will come around and collect the scores. I will probably just take a picture of it. But the sheet itself stays with you guys. So this really is a way for you guys to just kind of keep track and help you kind of gauge how you're working with your scholar. Here at the bottom, right here, it has a breakdown of what the scores mean, kind of what we were talking about. So mastery, they're considered on grade level and have mastered the phonics, at least this section. Progressing, that's kind of, okay, they're getting there. They could be just below that kind of threshold mark. They just may need a little bit of an extra push. So that's this one right here. And then novice is like, okay, you know, they're really, really struggling. Or they're a kindergartner who just started school. They're probably not going to have mastered their alphabet. But you know, okay, they're learning the alphabet. How can I support that as they continue to go through kindergarten? Whether that's starting before you read, doing some flashcards with your alphabet, whether that's while you're reading, pointing to different letters and going, okay, remind me what this letter is. Just different ways that you can support your scholar as you're reading with them in your 45 minutes. Okay, so now I'm going to give you guys a chance to do some math. And we're going to score one together. So I have an example score here of a scholar who has taken our assessment. And what I want you guys to do is I'm going to set a timer. 2 minutes? 2 minutes long enough? Do we need longer for math? I'm not a math whiz. That's Whitney's job. I'm going to set a timer. And then if you guys want to write on a piece of paper or just kind of take a mental note. And then I have what I scored it as. And we're going to compare to see if we got it correct. Okay. All righty, go ahead. I've started our 2 minutes. Go ahead and score it. I've given you all of the scores that you need. So the part A, part B, and part C. And so I want the percentages for each of them. And then of course the average percentage. I'm actually going to write our answers in too, so I will also get a pen. I'll write it in.
I do not have glasses, so I cannot read the right side
That
at
is
all.
okay. That is okay. We can just walk through it.
I can go get my glasses. By the time I go get them, they'll all be done.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
I feel like we have
I
some
don't wear
math.
glasses and it's very small.
I try to make it as big as possible, I promise.
Well, if I had my glasses, I could read it. I just forgot to bring them out.
Screenshots aren't always my best friend. That's what I'm learning. All righty. It's okay if you didn't get through all of it. We're going to talk through whatever we got. So for part A, what percentage did we get? I'm going to write it down.
96.
96. It's very hard to write on these things. All right. What we get for part B?
88.
88. I think we found the math whiz. It's the same gentleman who brought the rocket launcher. All right. What we get for part C?
86.
Did you say 86 for part B or 88?
86. For
Or-
B, 88. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. It was 88.
Yeah, for B.
88, and then 86.
Yeah,
And then part D, we'll do long vowels first.
0,
And 0. And then short vowels,
100, 1.
100. And then what we get is our average percentage.
What did I get? 74.
All right. Did anybody get anything different that they want to share? Because I'll write them next to it. Okay. I'm going to take your silences. Is that Ray got it right? All right. Let's see. I'm going to clear our drawings. Let's see. Did we get it right? We're pretty close. I think part C is out of 23, so that may have been the hiccup.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little hard to see, so I'm not.
Yeah.
Once you have it in front of you, it's a bigger font, I promise. But yeah, so their average is based on the average that we have, though, and according to the levels, is a scholar mastering, progressing, or a novice when it comes to their alphabet? I heard it.
Progressing. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yes, they're
progressing.
progressing. So they fall into our progressive category. So you would literally just come over here, you can dot it, you could circle it, highlight it, whatever. But that means that this scholar may not know all of their alphabet, but they seem to have a good enough handle that they're building up those skills. So based on this, what are some things that you guys think we could do with our scholars before we start reading to kind of help push them up to that mastery?
Flashcards.
Flashcards are great, yeah. I'll take one more. One more thing you think we can do.
Find a book, look like a slightly higher level, not like a
Okay.
huge number, but to just kind of challenge them a little bit. See, I
Yeah.
hate to use the word push, but maybe
Mhm.
to push so they have a chance to just move farther.
Yeah, definitely. We're always here for challenging our scholars to kind of get up to that next thing. And maybe sometimes they just need something a little bit more challenging for them. We could also, if your scholar is like, okay, really frustrated with it, the flashcards are great. Reading to them is also great. Or even getting a decodable book. So our decodables are books that just break down like the bear sounds. So they really focus on one type of sound as they move through the book. And so it'll be like hat, pat, cat, and it's all a story kind of connecting those words, which is a great place to start too. All right, you guys killed that. You did awesome. Any questions on this before we move on?
Good.
Part, you got your math wrong on part C. Never wanted to be that kid in school, and I never was.
Did I get my? It's possible.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not the math whiz. I will fix it though. But it's 86.
Yes.
I trust you. I trust you. All right. I will fix it. We're gonna jump right into the next thing. We're gonna talk about dibbles. This is the one that you're probably going to work with the most. It also has the easiest math. Less math in this than the core. Significantly less math. So a quick breakdown. Dibbles is used by our 1st through 5th graders, and this is those reading passages. So it is 1 minute. So you would set a timer as you, the tutor, and they have to read as much as possible in that minute. They're not going to finish the whole passage in a minute. If they do, then they are well exceeding where they're supposed to be grade wise. They are well above it. Your job as you're listening to them is if they mispronounce a word or they hesitate on the word, give them the correct word, but mark it wrong on your sheet. So if they read like it says the cat in the hat, and they say the pat in the hat, then you would mark cat as wrong. Of course, also mark where they ended in the reading because you're going to need to know how many words total they read. So not necessarily total the passage, but how many words total that they read specifically. Like I said, they're not going to finish the passage. I think in the 3 years I've been doing these assessments, I've had one scholar finish the passage. And that's because she was absolutely determined to get it. 90%, 95 really are going to finish maybe halfway. Sometimes if you have a really, really strong reader, they might get to the last paragraph. But these passages are not meant to be finished. It is really just meant to gauge where they are in their reading level. So if your scholar doesn't finish it, don't feel like, oh my gosh, they're so under level. That may not be the case. If they get 5 words wrong within the first sentence, so if they're reading the first sentence and they are just like every other word, they are either getting incorrect or they're really, really hesitating, then it's okay to have them end at the sentence and discontinue the assessment. Don't tell them you discontinued it, but you can make a note on your thing that they couldn't get through it. You can just be like, oh, great, awesome. You can stop right there. You did a fantastic job. And just mark that it was discontinued. That will tell you that they are not at this level yet, and it may be worth trying either a grade below to see if that's where they are, or it'll let you know that, okay, we need to start maybe at a younger age when it comes to the books that we're helping them pick out. Okay, so these are student versus tutor. So you would mark that word wrong because I said it wrong. But our tutor versus student materials. The one in front of the red is what the scholar will see. It's got bigger font. There's no numbers. It is just the passage. And they can track it with their finger. They can pick it up and hold it. Whatever it is to make it easier for them to read, they are welcome to do. On this side is what you see as a tutor. I know it's small. I could only make it so big without hiding everything else. But they have a couple elements to it. So on this side over here are the numbers. This tells you the amount of words. So when you mark where they end, you would make a mark like this. Like say I got all the way to could it. I'm going to mark here that that's where they ended. And I can go over here to this line. Okay, I know that they total read 44 words. It's so you don't have to go back and count 1, 2, 3 because you'd be here forever. So these numbers on the side help you gauge, okay, this is at the last word is 44. It also has a script at the top. This script is great if you just really don't feel comfortable with what to say to get your scholar started on the instructions. But you don't necessarily have to follow it. When you are giving your assessment, and the same as the other one, you can correct their mistakes, but you can't give them the answers in the sense of like, you can't read it for them. Does that make sense so far? Any questions?
Yeah, I would also say if they make a mistake and they just keep going, don't stop them to correct the mistake.
Yeah. Just let them go.
If they look at you and they're like, is that right? Then you can let them know how to pronounce it.
So,
yeah.
Did you
or
say,
if they're, go ahead.
Did you say if they don't know the word, don't give it to them?
If they don't know the word, you can give it to them.
Okay.
But mark it wrong on your sheet.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I was like, Bobby, and I kind of look at you like, what's this word? Whitney can say was, just mark it down on the sheet. When I say don't give them the answers, I'm more referencing don't like try to read it with them. So sometimes when we're trying to teach them reading, we'll kind of read and they will kind of imitate us behind.
Yeah.
We don't want that for their assessment.
Okay.
Great question. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example video of somebody doing it. Can you all hear?
Yeah.
You all can hear that?
I can't hear it.
Hey, here, what?
No.
Wait a
Go
minute.
down. Mm-mm.
No.
Can't hear
Yeah,
it?
I take it back.
Okay.
Yeah. When you share your screen, you have to press the share sound.
It didn't give me.
So you probably have to unshare and reshare.
Okay. I will. Oh, here we go. Try again.
It's a really short story. And so fast.
Can you all hear it now?
Very, very impressive. Now we're going to read this little story out loud. If you get stuck, you're going to do so good, Hunter. It's a really short story. If you get stuck, I'm going to tell you the word, okay? So you can keep reading. And when I say stop, I may ask you to tell me about what you read. So do your best reading, okay? Start at the beginning. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Begin.
There are many reasons we need drink water. We need to drink water. The cells in our bodies need it to help us live and grow. The water we drink gets rid of waste that we have inside of us. It also controls how hot or cool our body is. Water is in everything we eat and drink. We must replace the water that our bodies sweats out. It can make our skin dry and give us a headache. If we don't drink water, it can make it hard for us to pay attention. Our bodies may also feel very tired.
Oh, good job. So, Hunter, what was this story about?
Drinking water.
Yeah, why do we need to drink water?
We need to drink water so we can stay hydrated.
What could happen if you're not hydrated?
You can't pay attention and your skin can dry.
Yeah. Has there ever been a time?
All right. So that was a scholar. And that was actually done by our partners at MUSC. Some of you may recognize the scholar. But that was just kind of an example of what it sounds like when they're reading. Like I know a lot of you immediately could tell he got the word sweat wrong. He said sweets. He may have skipped two in the sentence. So those are all areas that you would mark off that he skipped two or he got sweats wrong. And then, of course, we know he ended, I want to say it, attention. I already forgot. But we would mark up the sheet.
And with him, even though he missed two the first time, he went back and reread it correctly.
Yeah.
So if you had marked it wrong, you would go back and say, no, he did this right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, oh yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
there was, I think he said, instead of body, he said bodies. Is that,
Yeah.
Would that get marked or no?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if he adds like a plural to the end of a word that is singular, that would be considered incorrect. If he adds a word to a sentence, that also counts as an error. You wouldn't mark it off, but you could just like write a little, like the little caret in the word that he added, but it does count as an error.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to jump into scoring it. And then we're going to do what we did with the core, and you'll get to do one yourselves. I won't make Whitney do it this time. She made me lovely videos for it. Okay, so scoring it. There are two really important totals that you're going to look at. How many words total they read and how many words they got right. So the easiest way to calculate how many words they got correct is to just take how many words they got wrong and the total read. And then that's going to get your words correct. So you're going to subtract those two. That'll give you that words correct number instead of trying to count it. Unless you're great at counting, then more power to you. Those two totals, so your words correct. I'll pull back up my handy dandy pen. Are going to go in these boxes here. So you have your words correct and your words read. Those are your two most important scores, raw scores that you're going to look at. After you have those, you are going to get their accuracy score. This is a percentage that just tells you out of the total words that they read, not the total of the passage, just the total that they read. Out of that total, how accurate were they in their reading, right? Is it that they know the words and it just takes them a little bit longer to get through it, but they got all of them correct? Is it that they are flying through it but they are skipping a ton of words or they're making a lot of mistakes? So that kind of tells you where they are in their reading as well. So to do that, we're going to have to do a little bit more division, but you're just going to, kind of like grading, you're going to take your words correct and you're going to divide it by your total words read, and that's going to give you that percentage. Way less math than core. Still a little bit of math, but not crazy. Once you have your words correct and that accuracy score, that is what you're going to use to determine if they are on or below grade level. So right here in the section, this blue box right here, are what are considered the baseline scores for their grade level. So this is kind of that minimum threshold for them to be considered on grade level. So for our first grader, they have to have a 60% accuracy and get 21 correct for the middle of the year. I think the beginning of the year, it's 10. So looking at your words correct and that accuracy score, you can then go, okay, he meets that threshold, and you can mark on here that he is on grade level. He is where he needs to be. If he is above that, so say he gets 30 words at a 70% accuracy, great, that's amazing. Then he would be considered above grade level. He's in that, all right, he's got it. He's a strong reader. He's really where he's supposed to be. If he is below that, so say he only read 10 words at a 50% accuracy, well, then you know that he is below, and you would mark that here. Any questions so far? I'm going to talk about these two sections next.
No.
Okay. Like I said, this one is much easier to score than the core is. The core requires a little bit more. This one is really, really, really simple, very, very user-friendly. So this section right here is very similar to the core in that it allows you to get specific with it, right? So as you're listening to your scholar read, you can be like, okay, I noticed that he really struggled with these sounds, or he had a really hard time sounding out the words. So you can kind of mark in what areas. So phonics is really about that like core level. Does he understand the different sound components in a word? Phonemic awareness is like the breaking down of that words. Does he have that understanding? Or is he struggling with his alphabet? Is it that he's really not know what the letter B sounds like? Fluency is, you know, how well he's able to read that passage and make as little errors. Comprehension, that was kind of the questions asked. you really only have to ask comprehension questions if you feel like the scholar got a pretty good sense of it when he was reading. So if you feel like the scholar felt confident, they were making little errors, they got through a decent amount of the passage, then by all means ask them comprehension questions to see if they're understanding what they're reading. But it is not required for every single one of these. It really is at your discretion. And if you feel like they got to a point where comprehension would make sense for them. And then, of course, issues with vocabulary. Are they really, really struggling with those kind of irregular words, those big words, stuff like that? And then at the bottom, these are strategies that you can utilize. I know it's kind of small, and I'm very sorry, with your scholar. So this is kind of a if-then chart. So on the first side, it's if your scholar is struggling with sight words, you can spend 5 minutes before reading using the sight flashword cards that are at all your sites. So every site has a deck of sight flashword cards. And if you don't, I would ask, if you can't find them, ask your team leader. And if the team leader doesn't have them, then she will reach out to us and we will make sure that they have some. If they're reading like a robot or they're choppy or disconnected, you can try to scoop up a few words at a time. So reading all the scoop words together in kind of one breath before pausing. And then kind of do that with your next words. So all of these here have a lot of, if they're struggling with this, these are things that you can actively do with your scholars before moving on to your reading. Does that make sense? Okay. I know we're running low on time, so I'm going to try to speed through the next part, but I do want you guys to try and do it on your own. So I have an example score, and I want you guys to just calculate their words correct and that accuracy score. And then we're going to show you what, hopefully I did my math right, what the correct thing is. So take another, we're going to do 1 minute because this is pretty easy math. And then we'll go from there. All righty. So what scores did we get? I'm gonna write them in our box over here. We're gonna compare them. So what did we get for total words correct?
22.
22. And our total words read was 25. And what did we get for our percentage?
88.
88.
Yep, 88.
All right. Let's see. Oh, it didn't. Oh no, it took it out. I had the correct answers. I will let you know. But we got the same score. You guys did great. I don't know where my thing went. It has disappeared. But yes, that is correct. So based on this and the middle of the year that we have, where is our scholar reading at? Are they on level? Are they below? Are they above? Where are they?
They're above.
They are above, yes. They are above. Woo! So it is really that easy to get their kind of final score. Took you less than a minute. Y'all did great. Okay. We're closing, so I may skip the example video unless you guys really want to do it, because I want to make sure we're getting you out here on time. A few things to note, as we said, if the scholar goes back and corrects a word they missed, count that as correct. That's a correct word. That shows that they recognized their error and they went back and fixed it. If the scholar skips a word, that counts as wrong. Sometimes your scholars will skip entire lines. You can either let them continue and count the whole line as wrong, or you can encourage them and be like, hey, actually jump back up right here, start from this point, and have them reread it and go through it that way. Either way, it kind of does impact their final total, because either they went back and they lost some stuff or they just discounted that entire line. But it's really up to you and what you're doing with your scholar at that point. If they can track words using their fingers. So if they need to kind of, the dog went to the, that is completely normal for their age, especially as they're building up their reading skills. Okay. Do we want to try this or do we want to skip it? This was just, you guys get to listen and see if you can point out the errors that he made. Or are we feeling pretty confident?
I'm good.
Give me a thumbs up if you feel confident to skip this part. I'm
Yeah, I think
seeing
we're
some general thumbs up. All right, we're going to skip this part. They're below level. You did it. All right. Tips on how to make it fun. So as we saw in one of the videos, Hunter did not want to do that passage. He was really struggling. He was probably tired. One of the things that we do is when we're working with our scholars, we never call it an assessment, right? We always say other words of like, show me your skills, or let's do this reading game to show me what you got, right? To kind of change that mindset of, oh my gosh, I'm taking a test, right? Kind of remind them that there's no real stake in this, right? As like a, hey, show me what you can read. And they love to show off. And kind of changing that mentality will kind of help them get through it a little bit better. So they're not like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? I still have to read. Encourage the scholar while they're reading. So like we said, if they make a mistake, you can correct them and keep going, or just kind of let them read past it. You don't necessarily always have to call it the mistake. But great things of like, if they sound out a really hard word, you can be like, oh my gosh, awesome. Yes, good job. And let them keep going. And it kind of encourages them, okay, we're doing a good job. Sometimes when our scholars are doing this, they can get really discouraged if they feel like they're struggling a lot. So one of the things that you can do as a tutor is just kind of continually encourage them as they're going. Like, even if it's like a relatively small word to us, but it's kind of a big word to them, be like, wow, that's great. That was kind of a hard word. And they'll keep going, to kind of shift that mentality into something that this is positive. This is just a moment for them to show you what they can read, rather than an assessment where we're taking scores. Sometimes they'll ask why you're taking notes. I often just tell them, oh, I'm just taking notes so we can add it up at the end and see where you got. Some scholars really like to know the scores. Some don't. It really is up to you and your scholar. You guys know your scholars best. You guys can really be the ones to make that judgment call on how you make this a little bit more interactive and fun for them. When the scholar is finished, just remind them they did a great job. No matter where they ended up on the scale, they always did a fantastic job. And a high five goes a long way. High five, fist bump, all of that, to just really encourage them that, like, this is low stakes. This is very low stakes. This is not a grade. This is nothing crazy. Some of our team leaders have incentives. So if they want like a fun thing afterwards, that's also great. Sticker. Our scholars love stickers. Boy, do they love stickers. But those kind of incentives to just make it fun and exciting and not an assessment feeling. Okay, any questions on how to make it fun? All right, reminders. You can always ask for a lower assessment. So if your scholars seem to have really struggled, say they're a fourth grader, and you discontinued the fourth grade assessment, they were really struggling. Your team leaders have extra copies of all the grades. So if you're like, hey, can I try them on like a third grader assessment just to see? That is perfectly okay. Ask away. If you have a first grader who you're like, I don't think the scholar knows their alphabet, can I give them a core assessment to see if they know their alphabet? Great. More, that is incredible. It really is to help you understand where your scholar is at and meet them where they are. Dibbles is only a minute, so they only get 1 minute to read the passage. Core is for kindergarten, unless you want to ask for it for your older scholar if you feel like they're struggling, and it is not timed. If you aren't comfortable scoring it, you can always ask your team leads for help. At this point, they have heard us talk so much about assessments and that process. They're practically pros. And also, during these next 3 weeks, we got a little shifted with the snow, but I will also be around at sites to kind of walk through the assessments and help with that process. So if you're like, hey, I am just not comfortable scoring it, let me know. I'm more than happy to help you with it. This isn't a full testament to the scholar's abilities, right? It is really just to help you gauge where to start with them and for data for our purposes. Just because they may have scored really rough the day you gave it doesn't mean that, you know, they don't have the potential to read stronger stories eventually. Or they could have also just had a really bad day. It really is just a tool in a grander scheme of your time with the scholars. This is not the end all be all for your kids. All right. Any questions? Any final thoughts? Things that you're like, hey, I really didn't understand that before we wrap up. Okay. I'm going to take your silence as you got it. Feeling confident?
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you sitting through that. I know it was a lot of information to give you guys at one time. Like I said, anybody in the staff, your team leaders especially, are always here to help if you have any questions about the assessment process. You're like, hey, I'm just not really understanding it. You can shoot me an email. I will be at your